When the printer first arrived and we ran our first job, I was pumped. I mean, you could literally find a design online, send it to the printer, and be holding it in your hand in under half an hour. I couldn't wait to use the tool with my grade 6s. I knew the printer would open up new possibilities for projects, and I just had to figure out what those possibilities were. So I got to thinking, and I kept thinking, and I kept thinking, and if you can believe it, a whole school year went by and I still hadn't found a way to integrate the printer into the classroom. I realized now I was focusing too much on the barriers. For one, I was looking for this perfect way to match 3D printing with a project in one of our units of study. And there were issues of time and scope. In my mind, learning how to design in 3 dimensions would be a huge time commitment, and then to add on to that subject content and specific requirement I thought would be too much. One day I finally decided I couldn't wait any longer. I knew I was caught in this whole paralysis by over-analysis, and I just decided to dive in and see where things went. So I went home and I made a list of 6 arbitrary items, some I found online, bookends, bookmarks, jewelry tower, and I decided to start what I would call a design challenge with the students. So the rules were that in pairs, the students would design these objects in Tinkercad using only base shapes, so no presets, no preset rings. They would document the whole design process, everything from initial ideas, inspirations, to sketches, revisions, and because this was a regional choice program with a focus on business, they would choose a target market and then decide how they were going to meet the needs of that target market. And all this they were going to present to the class in the form of an oral presentation, which is how I justified things, because I was getting a mark out of it. I can tell you that after a bit of a shaky start, I was absolutely blown away with what the students were able to do. Learning the Tinkercad program did take time, but nowhere near as long as I expected, maybe 3 periods. And once we did know it, the students were more than willing to troubleshoot each other's questions. So as it went on, it only got easier. And the passion and dedication I saw was really inspiring. It literally took more effort at the end of the period to get them to stop designing than it ever did to get them to start up. And when the presentations were finally done and all the objects had been printed, I realized that I got way more from this than just an oral presentation mark. For one, these grade 6s had learned the basics of modeling in 3D space. That you have to think from the ground up, nothing can float on its own, everything needs supports. They got practical experience with transformational geometry, flips, turns, rotations, and how to move an object across a plane. And they learned that the design process is just that, it's a process. It's not linear, you don't start with the perfect idea and then print it. It's constant revision. But perhaps the best positive side effect that came from the experience was the possibilities it opened up later. So for our next math unit, which was measurement, we looked at the volume and surface area of 3D figures using Tinkercad. This time we didn't print anything, so everything remained online. But the students were able to build their structures tailored for a purpose, and then they calculated the volume and surface area, and they presented their calculations and the designs to the class. We had everything from luxury homes to summer camps, maze theme park, and underwater hotels. Learning volume and surface area, in my opinion, is a task on its own for a grade 6, and I really only felt comfortable to do this because they had previous experience with 3D modeling. So my takeaway from the whole experience would be as follows. When it comes to 3D printing or modeling, just dive in. Don't wait for the perfect subject crossover or the ideal project. There never really is a right time to begin printing, and for me, it cost me a whole school year. There'll always be barriers and hiccups with really anything you start new, and 3D printing is no different. The sooner you face it, the sooner you're going to overcome those barriers. I would say you need to have enough base knowledge to navigate through a program, Tinkercad 1, 2, 3 design, enough to move shapes and join shapes, and then really everything else you're going to figure out along the way with the students. It's a process. And even if you don't have a printer at your school, working with an online modeling program is giving the kids a skill that's growing in demand. If you are on Flipboard and social media, you'll start to see 3D printing really popping up. And if nothing else, I would say do it to see just how much they can surprise you. For example, I thought that a grade 6 student wouldn't be able to design a modern luxury home with an array of solar panels on the roof. And sure enough, they can. Thank you.